Hello and welcome to FS Brew. FS Brew is the region's first podcast focusing on all things insurance and InsurTech here in the UAE and the wider Middle East. I'm Vidya. I'm the founder of Forward, a startup that works with insurance companies to build their digital go-to-market propositions.
Hi, I'm Renjit Philip. I'm a partner at Future You Strategy, and I consult with mid-sized companies on M&A and funding requirements. So in today's episode, we have Jonathan Cooper, who is the managing director and founder of WIS Group, which is a locally grown insurtech that provides travel, cyber, pet, and other insurance products, which we will get into. They distribute through insurance companies, brokers, travel portals, and so on and so forth.
Hi, Jonathan.
Great to be here.
Awesome. Tell us about WIS Group and tell us how you got into insurance and how did you go about setting up WIS Group?
Sure. Maybe I'll start with how I got into insurance. Back in 1985, unusually, I left school at 16 and had to get a job. So I worked for a company called IBM as a sponsored student for a period of time. This was pre-Microsoft days, right? IBM were the gods of IT. But if I'm honest, I couldn't quite work out what I was supposed to be doing at IBM. The organization was so big. So I figured this kind of wasn't for me. And one fine day, I saw an advert in the local press for an open claims handling position at a local insurer. And thus my insurance career was born. And I spent the first 10 years of my insurance career managing insurance claims departments and assistance companies, and then more recently managing liability type losses on motor insurance contracts. That was with a company that was actually known back in those days as the Bishopsgate. It's a very old insurance name. But that company is now known as Ageas. And so that was my start in the insurance industry. And I guess probably my reflection was that it was a good start because I actually firmly believe that understanding the claims process is a great place to start. It's the root to everything. And then moving on to underwriting and eventually then sales and distribution, it's a kind of helpful build-up. So that was cool and fun. I guess having spent nearly 30 years working for large European and US multinational insurers, I was given the opportunity 12 or 13 years ago to take, I suppose, one of those kind of pivotal directional moments. Do I get my next gig, corporate gig, or do I finally do something for myself? So at the grand old age of what was then 43 years of age, I decided that I would do something for myself. This story hasn't changed even today. What certainly I recognized working for insurers, large insurers, was that they were relatively slow. Tech was difficult and expensive and slow to react. And to that degree, setting up a tech-based business but that importantly understood insurance and insurance products. So it's not just tech, right? It's everything else that goes with it. Felt like a smart thing to do. And WIS was therefore born.
Excellent. What does it stand for, WIS?
Worldwide Insurance Solutions. So yeah, absolutely. And we're based in the UAE. We have businesses based in DIFC, also in DMCC. So we are part InsurTech, part marketing management as a company.
Okay.
But today the business has grown. We've always been, I guess, very much focused on our bread and butter of the travel industry, and that's still to a large extent true today. The business trades in the UAE, but indeed across the GCC, where we are partnering with insurers on various products, mainly from a travel insurance perspective.
Recently, there was the Arabian Travel Market event. I have it from good authority that you attended, and would love to know what are the trends that you're seeing fresh off from the event, and how does that fit into the world of travel insurance?
Sure. I guess my first remark about ATM and kudos to Dubai is that the event continues to get bigger. It's just a spectacular event. And as I say, kudos to Dubai. In terms of key trends, I think there's a continued drive towards personalization of the travel experience. and perhaps making the travel experience more efficient. And travel now is talking about how it uses digital AI to ease the itinerary management or whatever it might be. So I think that's going to be increasing. And I guess as someone that trades into those travel spaces, our ability to connect easily with those new journeys is absolutely key. I think a theme that is clearly on everyone's mind is global uncertainty, though, the geopolitical situation and what's going on around the globe. I think that's got to bake into our minds in terms of what we are delivering to the end consumer from a proposition perspective. That certainly was a theme. I think a continued theme, and this has been going on since Ryanair launched 25 years ago, the continued focus on ancillary revenue and how travel efficiently monetizes customer touch points beyond just a flight is certainly key. So yeah, those would probably be my three themes. In terms of where we fit in, I guess with that, I think what we've tried to be as a piece of tech is be an easy company to integrate with, providing flexible APIs that don't just deliver one type of insurance product. So what I mean by that is that the travel trade, like all businesses, IT resource is expensive and scarce. And to that degree, I think more and more, the more the tech players such as ourselves can provide one API to access multiple propositions is perhaps the way to go. And that's something that we're very focused on as a business. Examples of traditional travel insurance, inbound and outbound, but increasingly we're talking about covers such as cancellation for any reason, which are now growing. We're actively looking with insurer partners at the moment at visa cancellation type products that could be offered, but also interestingly moving into non-insurance products. So we're working with third parties to aggregate things like eSIMs into the purchase journey. Again, monetizing that single integration with more propositions. So yeah, that's a focus for sure.
I mean, eSIM seems to be the flavor of the season for fintechs. Wherever you turn, you see everybody hawking an eSIM. Yeah, so that's
No, that's brilliant. So you spoke about all these trends. You spoke about, from a tech point of view, the readiness. But tell us, what is the sense that you're getting from the insurers, the underwriters of these risks? What is their current readiness to monitor these trends and also take that into the product proposition or even service proposition? What's happening there?
I think it's a great question. The honest truth is that the average insurer, frankly, around the globe is extremely slow to react to what the customer wants. And I'd also say that that's probably more so in this region than in certain other perhaps more mature markets. I think where we play a role in that is insurers at times have struggled with their data management, their understanding in a granular way around risk and how to rate risk. I think a company like ours is core to that from a product development perspective in terms of the richness that we can give to the product development process. I think, in fairness, we work with a variety of local cedants, fronting insurance companies, effectively, that are combined with a major reinsurer. And I'm happy to share we work extensively with Europe Assistance, part of the Generali group. And it's interesting that we're starting to see things that have been delivered in the US and in Europe start to come here. So for instance, we're working on a project right now that will enable, through our platform, automated payout in the event of a delay, right? Which is cool. We're also working on a proposition that will look at automated payment in the event of a luggage delay. So looking at those pinch points is key. And again, we've got a real role to play in that because we're able to deliver it to the customer on behalf of the insurer. But what I will say is that this is perhaps slightly controversial, but I think the industry at times in this part of the world also has got to face some basic realities of getting the core proposition more right. We talk at times about the future, but we need to look at the reality of today first. And some things that we're encouraging with our insurer partners that we're working with are things like addressing pre-existing exclusions that rife in across the whole of the GCC. Majority of policies will exclude pre-ex unilaterally, right? Now, in my view, that's not great for the consumer. I have high blood pressure, but I'm well controlled and all the rest of it. That means, though, that, God forbid, I won't run the story, but you see where I'm coming from, and which is where we come in. I think what we are looking to do with our insurer partners is enable, through our tech, simple medical screening that can assess toxic combination at the point of booking a travel arrangement, such that we can provide cover where it's needed. So I think some of those basic things we need to really put in place. I think the other key challenge that the industry, the travel insurance industry, has here is that conversion is still woefully low. Over penetration is extremely low, is single digit. And the average consumer, frankly, is buying an insurance product as a function of a visa process. And the things that you're driving at and that we've just spoken at, as an industry, we need to make sure that we are more relevant to customers and more engaged with customers around things that they understand and add value to them, right? So travel insurance for me is a bit like selling a Ferrari to a guy that just drives once a year. You're never going to be able to sell it for 5 million dirhams if an individual doesn't value driving a car. Travel insurance, and actually a lot of insurance products, a bit like that, right? So we need to be forcing frequency up so that people engage with it more, so that they want to buy it, right?
I think
Except the insurance can never be as exciting as a Ferrari, but yes.
There you go.
Absolutely. But somehow I was just thinking, as you mentioned, I just met a founder a couple of months back, and he had this AI app which could screen your face and figure out if you're having blood pressure or
I've seen that thing well.
So it made sense with that travel at the point of need example that you're giving. And with that, I just want to, I'm sure ATM had a lot of this, but just want to know a little bit about what was the sort of noise or real examples that you saw at the event regarding AI, whether it be for claims or for underwriting or customer experience. I would love to.
I don't think, because there's not such a large insurer presence, right, at ATM. So it's hugely focused on airlines, OTAs, and travel agencies. So I don't think I saw necessarily insurance examples at ATM. What I will say, though, is I saw a lot of examples within OTAs, online travel agencies, and airlines around how they're using AI to better serve up and interact with customers. And I think that's going to have a real impact in the years to come.
Sure. We just touched upon the other products in your intro, and we looked at your website, and you mentioned very interesting things like cyber and pet. I think we have more pets than cars now in UAE, and gadget insurance and stuff like that. Just want to know how it works. Do you support other players and bring them the technology that you have, or do you have access to RI, which brings these products from elsewhere?
So our model, I guess, is a simple one and not a surprising one. In every market in which we trade, we work with pretty much one insurer exclusively. We believe in partnerships and long-term partnerships and the trust that brings. both in terms of travel and new edition of pet insurance, we then work with the local company to ideate product, help them with the product development, and then obviously the tech build to get the proposition to market, but also work with international reinsurance players, which is the other part of the triangle
Right.
that's important, particularly with the likes of pet insurance, where companies here do not have the experience to write that type of line. And you're probably aware already, but frankly, the majority of travel and the majority of pet is heavily quota shared, seeded out to the reinsurance market rather than retained. So we work with the local insurer partner. And then beyond that, in terms of making available, we're pretty much, Renjit, agnostic in terms of where we connect. So looking at pet insurance as a for instance, we support direct sites. Our tech is there. We support aggregators. Our tech is there. Mainstream brokers. There's portal access there. Through to pet shops, veterinary clinics. So it's a very much agnostic approach to distribution. The same for travel, where we also support and facilitate, whether that's an API, whether it's a white label website, whether it's a portal into somebody else's platform, or whether it's a full deep integration to somebody else's B2B back end. We're available everywhere, and that's our kind of mission.
Got it. So by extension, some of our listeners are obviously founders and have that kind of a mentality. So theoretically, an InsurTech founder wanting to set up an interesting product could come to you and seek support from tech point of view or from an 100%. RI point of view, and so on and so on.
100%. Yep. No, 100%. And yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll take advantage of the marketing play. Pet insurance, which has been an interesting journey for us. There are estimated between 400,000 to 500,000 microchipped dogs and cats in the UAE.
Oh, wow.
It's a significant premium opportunity in a proposition that the consumer needs. It's extremely expensive. And our challenge with our insurer partners is reaching that pet community. And again, the challenge for travel is making sure that we resonate with consumers in a meaningful and relevant way.
So you mentioned about reaching out as much as you can across different partners. So that's pretty much the whole embedded insurance as an opportunity. Within embedded insurance, embedded travel, I think, has the best sort of business case. We know that pretty much a lot of the travel agents, all of them have some sort of partnership going on. And UAE has international players like TuneProtect, Cover Genius, Boltech, all of that, pretty much working in this space as well. And WIS is a nice homegrown brand. Tell us, what are the challenges? And it's not very easy to have whole embedded proposition in place. So tell us, what are the challenges and you faced, WIS has faced, and what are the opportunities as well along with these challenges within this whole embedded ecosystem?
Yeah, for sure. No, as you say, a couple of comments. It's been quite interesting. Birth of the term embedded insurance that everyone is kind of marking the hell out of, right? All over the globe. Sure. This is not a new phenomena, right? I think the first deal I was involved with was EasyJet 22 years ago or something that was embedded in the booking path. We used to call it XML then and everything else. But so it's not a new phenomena. Travel has been doing this for multiple years. To your point, the majority of online travel agencies, airlines are already offering travel insurance, not just here, across the globe. So it's a fairly mature situation. I think we have airlines on our books. We have online travel agencies on our books. I think we've been successful in that space. Number one, because we're not global, we're local. We understand the market dynamics here and some of the opportunities and frustrations, which I think is important. What works here isn't necessarily going to work in the UK. So I think having that local understanding and knowledge is key. The larger multinational insurers that dominated this space for the last 20 years, take that as the AIGs, the Alliances, and etc. Increasingly, what we are finding is that airlines and online travel agencies are actually running RFPs, marketing, going out to InsurTechs rather than insurance companies, which is interesting. Why? Because InsurTechs are quicker, faster. They are potentially insurer agnostic, right? Where the average airline and online travel agency doesn't want a solution for one market. They want solutions for 30, 50 markets. So a one-time integration with an InsurTech platform that has the ability to connect not only multiple insurance companies for different jurisdictions, but also, as I said earlier on, multiple non-insurance propositions that also add value to customers and monetize the journey. That, for me, is where the real opportunity for companies like ours. Obviously, we've seen Cover Genius really capitalize on that, frankly, globally. I think we continue to capitalize on that more locally. So, listen, beyond that, I think the usual challenges, our problem is that because this is a relatively mature situation where airlines, online travel agencies, and travel companies already have a proposition of some sort, generally they're all locked into 3 and 5 year RFP cycles, which is very dangerous on our side of the fence, right? Because everyone comes out to play, and we all know what RFP cycles are like, right? You get that one shot every 3 to 5 years. And I think those that will be successful are those that maximize that shot by being, number one, clearly easy to integrate, but number two, and most importantly, not being just a travel insurance solution. You've got to be more. You've got to be more to create that stickiness. And as I say, I think the InsurTech world is far better placed to capitalize on that than, frankly, a multinational insurer is, because they don't offer lounge. Insurance companies count premium. So I think it's quite an interesting time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think an opportunity there is, I'm sure, which you are exploring, is a number of these apps like Kareem and Potim have declared that they're building a super app, and a super app needs insurance as a sort of lubricant. And that's a great way to get into a larger distribution base. And I'm sure it's not as easy as I make it out. You have to fight tooth and nail to get into there. But that's definitely an opportunity. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's something we're challenging ourselves to see where that new digital journey is that we can connect to. But what am I speaking to founders out there? Certainly as a guy that's self-funded for over 10 years, the challenge clearly is focusing on what is going to produce relatively quickly versus what's going to take 5 years. And that's perhaps another discussion, right, in terms of how one goes about doing business. But
absolutely. You briefly touched upon Cover Genius. We know they're pretty heavily funded, and I think they went out at the right time to get when the cost of funding was pretty low. Are you open to discussing your funding status or future funding plans? Or you can tell me, no, it's not a problem.
Sure, no, listen, probably my answer is never say never. I think on the one hand, as I just alluded to, I think my baseline is I like to have fun, right? I've existed in the insurance industry for the last 40 years because I've enjoyed coming to work every day. One of the fun things about taking your own risks and funding yourself is, you can make all the right and the wrong decisions, but for yourself. Our challenge, which is why I never say never, is certainly scaling. I'll be very open about that. So yeah, never say never, Renjit.
Got it.
Great. To come to the conclusion of the first part of the podcast, we wanted to know what's next for WIS. You said never say never, but tell us, is there any sort of trends that you are catching on and working on, any sort of exciting products or partnerships that you're able to spill out exclusively on FS Brew?
Sure. I think probably the world and his wife in this region is looking at Saudi right now. We are actively looking at our role in Saudi, and I would be surprised if we hadn't established a business in Saudi Arabia at some stage in the next 12 months. I think it's important to be in that market and to be seen in that market. And obviously, from a regulatory perspective, it's also important to be there to have the right relationships with insurers. I think I can't sadly announce this, but we are on the verge of launching another OTA partner of significance, which we're extremely excited about. We will, though, continue, I think, to put money and resource into embedded travel, where we think we can do more, not just within the GCC. In fact, we're looking at European opportunities right now where we think there's a role for us. And what we've not launched, we did allude to this earlier on, but I'll share with you, hopefully 1,000 other people don't do this now, but we think there's a real opportunity to provide full-blown gadget cover, both within the travel vertical as either standalone or upsold travel gadget. And
Nice.
we think that's everything from earpods to iPhones with sensible levels of cover that cover 5,000 dirhams against screen breakage, loss, and theft. So we will have launched that product within the next 3 months across all verticals. And we're pretty excited about that, which I think is really going to drive great revenue.
So, Jonathan, if you want, we can hold the podcast for a few months and then really.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, as ever, lots going on. The only other thing which is top of my mind beyond working on the solution for pre-existing travel coverage, which we will have on the platform in the next 3 months or so, which I think is really interesting. We're taking quite a deep dive look at how we can enable home insurance and specifically contents cover, making it easier for the customer to access, obviously by giving our insurer partner the tools to deliver more effectively. I think that's a really under-penetrated opportunity that, as much as we've talked about it as a result of floods, etc., nothing's really changed. I think there is an opportunity to change, which we're very focused on.
Very good. Perfect. Yeah, I think much required. So I think we are now entering the rapid fire section where the answers are expected in 60 seconds or less. So if you're ready, we'll fire a few your way, Jonathan.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. So what would you say are your hobbies and interests outside of work?
I am learning the guitar currently.
Oh, nice.
In the last 18 months, have lost 34 kg. I've become a yogi. I'm not quite a yogi, but I've lost a lot of weight. And I suppose that means that I'm trying to also make time for the important.
I can't let that go. What was the key things that you did to lose weight?
No, in all seriousness, intermittent fasting has been huge in my life. I have a window of 3 hours.
All right. Okay, great. What would you say is your favorite book, blog, podcast that you refer to your friends or family?
I think podcast-wise, obviously beyond you guys, and podcasts have become huge in our lives, right? I think we all aspire to the 10,000 steps per day, and podcasts fill those 10,000 steps. So probably my favorite podcast is a pod called The Rest is Politics, that is run by Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart. Both sides of the kind of political divides in the UK. And I think the interesting thing about the two commentators is that they provide a nicely balanced view of the world, and their commentary right now, I think, is particularly interesting and insightful.
Very good. And who would you say is your sort of business or personal role model, and why?
I think a number, but I think probably my career, the most effective organization that I worked for was AIG. Pre-2007-8 crash. Obviously, the company changed after that slightly. But before that, there were profit center culture, strong leadership from the center, folk like Dan Glazer, who rose to stardom at Marsh, people like Julio Portalatin were hugely inspirational. Really, and what I was always most impressed about is the ability to run a truly global billions of dollar business, but have extremely simple pillars that were spoken about every day and embedded in the company. Thousands of people understood. So I think those guys, but generally the leadership at AIG was excellent. Beyond that, my father, a working class guy, taught me to get up every morning, do your best, earn some money and try and smash it. Yeah.
Nice.
It's surprising how those simple things stand you in good stead for a long period. Life is not that complicated when we look at it.
Absolutely. What's your favorite thing about living in Dubai?
I think probably the spirit of Dubai, right? And we've really seen this in the post-COVID world. It's moving. It has an entrepreneurial go-get spirit that I find that I enjoy. And there's probably no better place to be in the world almost right now than here running this sort of business. Yeah.
Would you say this is your favorite city? Or do you have any other favorite?
Listen, my home city is a place called Portsmouth, where I still have a home, which is on the south coast of the UK. That, I guess, is the love of my life. It's an imperfect city, but of course. And probably my favorite city to travel to is likely Hong Kong. Hong Kong has everything for me, and it's just a fab city.
Yeah.
So what's your advice for people who want to start their career in insurance?
I have 4 grown-up sons, actually. None of them are, if you like, insurance practitioners per se. They've gone kind of digital routes and such. But probably the advice that I always would give to them more generally, and it applies to insurance, is number one, learn the basics. I think when I speak to young folk, the unreality, where I think in life you need to live in the reality of what you can achieve today and tomorrow rather than in 10 years' time. So build your career with solid foundations and basics, right? Understand insurance, right? And then, but listen, and I would say this, tech is ruling everything, right? And we've not seen anything yet. The changes we'll see in the next 10 years. So I would guess choose your discipline carefully because it may not exist tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we all know what is likely to exist. So yeah.
As Morpheus would say, what is reality? That's what Gen Zs would ask.
Sure. Yeah.
What's your favorite sort of catchphrase that you find yourself using quite often at work?
Actually, tagging on to what you've just said, it is what it is. I think living in a reality and understanding that rather than bleating or dreaming too much, I think is important. But one of the things that I think it's written on our walls here that I firmly believe in is doing the right thing. Right. Often we're presented with things, opportunities, or whatever it might be that can be tempting, but it doesn't equal a core of doing the right thing. And I think for me, that's important in life.
Fabulous.
That's a very good note to bring the podcast to a close. And it's been fantastic speaking to you, Jonathan. We totally enjoyed it.
All right. Great. Thank you so much for your time. Great to chat.
Absolutely.
Same here. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day.